As you know, latest release of Apache Cassandra 4.0 RC2 has been released at the end of June 2021. Cassandra 4.0 has many new options, and I want to discuss about something called Network Authorizer. This is a new option being introduced with Apache Cassandra 4. So let's talk about it today. To connect to my servers using SSH, I'm using this excellent tool called MobaXterm. I seriously suggest you try it out. As you can see here, I have a 6-node Cassandra cluster. And if you notice, if I run my node tool version, you can see that I'm running Cassandra version 4.0 beta 4. So Cassandra 4.0 is introducing a new authorizer called Network Authorizer. By default, Network Authorizer is set to allow all Network Authorizer. What does Network Authorizer do is, when you have a Cassandra cluster which spans across multiple data centers, you can use this Network Authorizer to restrict the user access to a certain data center. Let's see how to use this Network Authorizer. If you notice, I have two data centers in my Cassandra cluster, East DC and West DC. I have 3 nodes in each data center. Notice that I'm already using password authenticator for authentication and Cassandra authorizer for authorization. That means my Cassandra cluster is already secure. Now the new feature in Cassandra 4.0 is Network Authorizer. By default, out of the box, it is set to allow all Network Authorizer. As you can see here, I have already commented out the default Network Authorizer and I have changed it to Cassandra Network Authorizer. So obviously, we have to set this Network Authorizer to Cassandra Network Authorizer on all nodes in our cluster. Using CQLSH, I have logged into my cluster. As you can see here, I have created a new role called sales_reports. I have granted select privilege on one of the tables to the sales reports role. This is a new system auth table called network permissions. This table will store all the permissions granted at data center level to the roles. Notice that I have 2 data centers and 3 nodes in each data center. Notice the IP addresses. As you can see here, I have logged into a different machine, which is acting like a client here. I'm going to use SQLSH from this server to connect to the Cassandra cluster. If you notice, I'm using the sales reports role, which we recently created, and I'm connecting to one of the nodes in the East data center. As you can see here, I'm allowed to connect to the cluster, to the East data center node. Let me run some queries. As you can see here, sales_reports role does not have select privilege on this table. I'm going to run another query. As you can see here, sales underscore reports role has permissions to query the sales underscore orders table. Let me exit from SQL shell. I want you to notice and focus on the IP address. Now, if you notice in the first SQL SH connection, I was connecting to one of the nodes in the East data center. In the second SQL SH command, I was connecting to West data center node. As you can see here right now, sales underscore reports is not restricted to connect to any of these data centers. It is allowed to connect to any data center in the cluster. Now my requirement is the users with sales underscore reports role should be able to connect only to the nodes in West data center. They're not allowed to connect to any nodes in East data center. As you can see here, I'm connected to my Cassandra cluster using super user role. Using alter role command with access to the data center's syntax, I'm granting only access to West data center to the sales underscore reports role. This is a new syntax or a new command provided with Cassandra 4.0. For this, network authorizer should be set to Cassandra Network Authorizer. Now, if you notice, sales underscore reports role has access to West DC only. Any users with sales underscore reports role are no longer allowed to connect to East data center. Let's go ahead and test this. As you can see here, in the first SQL SH attempt to connect to one of the nodes in the East data center, I got a message saying, you do not have access to this data center. You're unauthorized to connect. In the second SQL SH command, you can see I was trying to connect to one of the nodes in the West data center, and I'm successfully able to connect to this data center. So now onwards, users with sales underscore reports can only connect to West data center nodes. They're not allowed to connect to East data center. This restriction is only possible with Cassandra 4.0's new option called Network Authorizer. As you can see here, I'm back on my SQL SH connection as a super user role. Let us now understand how to remove this data center restriction for any given role. Using this alter role command for sales reports role, I'm going to give the access to connect to any of the data centers in my Cassandra cluster. As you can see here, sales underscore reports no longer has any restrictions, meaning any users with the role sales underscore reports can connect to any nodes in our Cassandra cluster. So imagine you don't want certain users
Hmm. Hmm.
who are going to run reports,
Hmm.
or certain users who are granted to do only certain tasks, right?
Okay.
You
Ah.
don't want them to connect to a different data center. I mean, you want them to connect to only your passive data center, like say reports data center. See, for
Okay. Like.
example, for example, in your previous
Hmm.
3.0, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
If you create a role, they can connect to any node and they can run anything they want, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
But with this, you're able to
Hmm.
restrict the users to go to only certain data center where they can do whatever they want. I mean, with whatever privileges you're granted, but you're able to restrict the access to the data center, which was not possible earlier. So imagine basically, let's say, for example, your sales application, right? You're
Hmm.
generating your sales
Hmm.
and you're keeping that in one data center. Okay.
Hmm. Okay.
That's not replicated to S data center. Let's say, for example, just for idea sake, sales key space is
Hmm.
not replicated to S data center.
Hmm.
So in the East data center, you have your
Ah.
sales key space.
Yeah.
Okay. West data center has sales metrics key space. Okay.
Okay.
Now, users who are pumping data into East data center are the live users, application users.
Hmm.
And I don't want reporting users to connect to East data center. Okay.
Yes. Hmm.
So once they're connected to West data center, right, they can only see the local data there, which is the sales metrics. Obviously, you already restrict that. You are not granting other privileges. They can only see one table in one key space, or maybe full key space, but they can only do select. See, what was not possible earlier was how do you stick them to a specific data center? You say, for example, five people should connect to only East data center, remaining five should connect to the West data center.
Okay.
Let me make it much more easier to understand. Let's say, for example, your application has
Hmm.
10 services,
Hmm.
microservices.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
How do you stick them to different data centers? Like, say, for example, first five should go to East, second five should go to West. You just set up as two different roles. You give the roles, and at the role level, you basically restrict them to go to specific data center. Hope you like this new option called Network Authorizer. Thank you.